It was a huge news week in the world of NASCAR. Jimmie Johnson announces his new number. Kevin Harvick hangs up his helmet. Kyle Larson's going to pull off the double. We'll talk about all that, plus the North Wilkesboro Speedway inches closer to its grand reopening. Hi, I'm Doug Rice. I'll be joined by PRN's Brad Gillie and our special guest, Jessica Fickenscher, on this edition of Fast Talk.
It's Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network, presented by Toyota. Let's go places. And by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Is it the best Coke ever? Try it today. Now, here's the host of Fast Talk, Doug Rice.
Nice to have you aboard as we record this edition of Fast Talk. We are less than 2 weeks away from the Busch Clash at the Los Angeles Coliseum, and that means we are also less than a month away from the Daytona 500. How about that? We're just about ready for Gentlemen Start Your Engines. I'm Doug Rice. I'm joined by PRN's Brad Gillie and a special guest on set for our first segment today. She is the executive director of the NASCAR All-Star Race at the famed North Wilkesboro Speedway. We're talking about Jessica Fickenscher. Jessica, I know in your busy schedule, thanks for making time to come down and be with us.
Oh, glad to be here, Doug. Thank you.
All right, so here's what's tough for you, I would imagine. You know, it's one thing to be named executive director of a race. It's like becoming, the general manager of a racetrack, effectively. It's another thing to do that and have to open a racetrack, or in this case, reopen a racetrack. What's been the biggest thing on your plate here lately?
I guess I would say the biggest thing is the logistics. Most of our Speedway Motorsports facilities are 1,500 plus acres, and we're working with, way under that. So making sure that we have a space for parking and working with the locals to find off-site parking and working with bus companies. I would say that's probably the biggest challenge right now is finalizing all of the logistics.
Jessica, the part of this that really intrigues me is the reconstruction of North Wilkesboro Speedway. The last time I was up there, it was down to the dirt in the infield. Everything had been scraped off, and you're starting new. All right, you have let's take a completed speedway like Las Vegas. It's built, it's done. You're redoing, bringing North Wilkesboro up to speed. Where is it now? Are we 50% of the way home? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I would say we're probably about 40 to 50% of the way home. The weather hasn't cooperated the last few weeks, so that's been a challenge. But we'll have a good stretch of weather here, so we're rebuilding everything from bathrooms to suites to concession stands to veneer stands, buildings, everything from race control to the TV, radio booths. So it. Definitely, our team has their work cut out for them.
Well, this is really special, and I mean, tickets for the All-Star race itself obviously sold out really, really fast. We know we have a lot more racing there with the CRA Series, the Cars Tour. I'm sure a lot of familiar faces will be in that Cars Tour race, Craftsman Truck Series, the Open, the All-Star race, all of those things happening. But let's just talk about the people who are coming there and the fan experience. This really is an inaugural event. Even though North Wilkesboro has been around since the start of NASCAR, the reopening of it is a big deal. What is special about this, especially for people who've already bought their tickets?
Oh, it's absolutely a big deal. Not even in NASCAR, but I think in professional sports, this has never been done before, where we've taken an older facility, shut it down, and then reopened it for a professional event. So the fans are going to have a lot in store for them. We've got tons of racing starting on Tuesday. We've got a hauler parade, fan fest. We've got concerts filling all of the extra days and nights between races and after races. We're going to have tons of legends there for, Q&As and trackside live acts and performances pretty much starting Tuesday and go until Sunday night. So
I know there were lots of folks that had vested interest at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Terry Parsons, the widow of the late Benny Parsons. Jeff Hammond, who co-hosts on this show. Junior Johnson's shop was a stone's throw from the Speedway. Give us an idea about the community embracement, and I feel like that's almost unique to how much pride the folks in Wilkes County and North Wilkesboro have dumped back into this racetrack.
Absolutely. And you said it right there, pride. I use that word a lot when I refer to the community there and the residents. I've never seen so much pride in a town, and everybody coming together and everything getting done from, people lending us their cement trucks, firefighters coming out last summer helping us take down, old trees that have kind of grown, through the grandstands, and everybody's just jumped in. They're so excited. It's, it's truly something that you want to make it successful for them, because just the look in their eyes when they step foot on that property and see the construction that's going on, and to listen to the stories that they have of going there with their grandfather or their dad. It's just a really, really special community.
It's fascinating because last year we looked at an historical year in our sport. 19 different winners. We talked about the next generation race car and everything that was special about it. But with those 19 winners come 19 drivers automatically qualified for the All-Star race. You add to that people who haven't won but are former champions, assuming that criteria still holds, with Martin Truex Jr. and Brad Keselowski in there. Plus the opportunity for people to still win between February 19th Daytona 500 and late May with the All-Star race as well. The field already is stacked. And, of course, with the Open, we're going to be adding more people to that. I mean, you talk about a star-studded event. You have it, Jessica.
Absolutely. And the other exciting part is, we hit the track with the NASCAR guys on Friday. So every day we will have Cup drivers on the track.
And you've got all of these other events leading up to it. You got the Cars Tour race, which was just purchased by a confederation of different drivers. I imagine that adds a little sex appeal to that now that Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Jeff Burton and Harvick have a little piece of that action.
Absolutely. And we know that Dale Jr. already committed to race in it, and I think others will start to follow suit. So I'm excited to start announcing the other drivers as they come along.
I have a follow-up to that, and I know you don't know the answer, but I'm curious as to what your thoughts is. We're going to be talking about Jimmie Johnson later on this show. Jimmie's kind of sort of hinted that, hey, maybe they'll give me an exemption and that I can run in whatever the Open's going to be. Would you like to see seven-time come back?
When he said that, I texted his manager, Jay Lou, and said, how can I help? What do we need to do to get him in this? That would be awesome.
That would be great. Another big announcement that we typically see, sometimes we see it literally this week. A lot of times we may see it a little bit later into the season, but what the actual format of the All-Star race is going to be, what kind of conversations are happening there?
So they just started. We have Marcus Smith and Steve Swift from our team working with NASCAR to finalize the format, and we should be announcing that shortly. So I'm excited for that to come out.
During all the renovations, and as I mentioned, you guys have scraped up the dirt off the infield. You've redone suites. You're leaving the grandstands intact, are you not? Pretty
Correct.
much?
Yep. All the grandstands staying. We're actually adding another about 6,000 temporary grandstand seats.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. Have you discovered anything cool? Somebody come up and say, look at this. We found whatever. Some
Jimmy
artifact.
Hoffa?
Or, yeah. Well, you're from Jersey. You'd know about that. So what about it? Is there anything been uncovered at the Speedway and all of this?
A lot of cool signage, a lot of old school signage. Everything there was hand painted back in the day, and we're going to bring that back too. So everything will have that throwback feel. But a lot of cool signage that we're making sure doesn't walk away. So we're kind of keeping that under lock and key, and hopefully we'll have some kind of exhibitor hall, museum where we can showcase all of that.
On a personal note, you've been an executive with this company for a long, long time, and you've been with this company, even PRN at one point, for a long, long time. U.S. Legends is a part of what you do and so many other things. But to be able to get that call from Marcus and from the company to be able to say, Jessica, we want you to handle the All-Star race. With all the years that you spent here, how much does that truly mean to you?
Oh, it was very surreal. I had to pinch myself and ask him about 10 times if it was a joke or not, because I would start to cry if he was joking with me. It's amazing. And one of the special things, and as most people here at PRN know, I started out as a call screener for Benny Parsons when he did Fast Talk. So to kind of see this come to full circle and work with Terry, and I know that this was one of his wishes, was to bring back North Wilkesboro. It's personally very, very special for me.
And I guess folks being introduced to you, you're busy when you're not doing SMI. You got a couple of young sons, and one of them which has a podcast that PRN puts out.
He does, yes.
So JC does JC's Garage, and your other son is what, a hockey star in New Hampshire now?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so you're all over the country regardless, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
So this is where we're at in our studios, what, like an hour and a half drive from North Wilkesboro. I think people need to understand that it's not way out there as far as the Charlotte Metro is concerned.
Right, yes. It's probably about, I think, an hour and 20 door to door.
So I know people are going to be beating on you for tickets. Tickets for the main event pretty well gone, aren't they?
Correct, yes. The All-Star race we have sold out. We will be releasing truck tickets and the Tuesday, Wednesday show tickets, I would say in the next couple weeks.
Oh, that'd be great.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, and it all starts May 16th. That's Tuesday. That's the CRA race. Wednesday night is the Cars Tour race. And then you mentioned Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to have Cup cars on the track all weekend long, with the May 21st All-Star race being the premier event of North Wilkesboro's reopening.
Is it kind of fair to think we'll see a lot of the legends show up?
We will.
The guys like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Harry Gant, who just lives down the road in Taylorsville, Rudd, Waltrip, all these cats?
Yes, you definitely will. We've got a list of them. Some already have been reaching out to us, asking us, what they can do to be part of it. So that's going to be really exciting. And actually on Thursday, we have the Hauler Parade, and both downtowns of North Wilkesboro and Wilkes will have a fan fest in their downtown. So everybody who's going to be in town for that definitely needs to check that out.
Awesome.
Wow.
Sounds fantastic. I know the days are counting down. I'm not going to put you on the spot for that. Thanks for making some time. Best of luck. I know you're going to have big crowds right now, even though it's a long way off. Get good weather.
Thank you.
Yeah, no stress, but the Coca-Cola 600's a week after as well, Jessica. I know you'll be involved there, too.
Yes, I will be.
A lot to keep you busy. Jessica Fickenscher, the executive director of the NASCAR All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro Speedway. We'll have her back on before we get ready to drop the green flag on that one. Coming up on the show, Kyle Larson's going to try to pull the double in 2024. Kevin Harvick has said, okay, this is my farewell tour for 2023. But up next, we talked about him earlier, Jimmie Johnson maybe showing up at a speedway near you. All of that's coming up here on Fast Talk.
Hey, Pack Rat. Yeah, you. Are you moving cross-country and you just don't know who to call? Call us right now. Listen, you've probably seen one of our containers in your neighborhood. But did you know that we can help you move anywhere in the United States? It's real simple. We'll drop a container off at the location you tell us to bring it to. You pack up your valuable possessions at your leisure. They stay safe right in your home. And when you're ready, call us. We'll come and pick up the container and give you a scheduled date of when your furniture and the other possessions will be at your new home. So if you're moving across country or across town, be a Pack Rat. Join the Pack Rat family. Call Pack Rat right now for your free quote. See y'all later, Pack Rats.
800-876-3515. 800-876-3515. 800-876-3515. That's 800-876-3515.
I'm Bubba Wallace, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Hey, I'm Corley Joy for Speedway Children's Charities. The mission for Speedway Children's Charities has remained true since its founding almost 40 years ago: to care for children in educational, financial, social, and medical needs in order to help them lead happy and productive lives. So many children have benefited from our group in the past, but we need your help now more than ever. Our local chapters are more than just fundraisers. They are partners in change, working with a broad range of people and organizations to help children in their communities. Want to make a real difference in a child's life? Start by heading to speedwaycharities.org today. Make a donation, volunteer, or attend one of the dozen fundraising events we host at our chapters. There's so much we can do when we all join together, so let's start today. Again, visit speedwaycharities.org to learn more. I thank you in advance for your help.
Jimmie Johnson, the fastest gun in the West here today. Once again, the king of Texas, going to put Hendrick Motorsports back in victory lane for the first time this year. Here he comes all four, smooth sailing.
New pavement, new configuration, no problem for Jimmie Johnson as he wins for the 7th time at Texas Motor Speedway, taking the victory in the O'Reilly Auto Parts 500.
Good win. Nice big win, guys. Great job, JJ. Great job, guys. Really proud of you all. Thank you for the hard work.
I thought repave might change it, but I still think I have the keys to the front door.
Well, Jimmie Johnson had the keys to a lot of racetracks. That was his first win in 2017, followed up the next week by this one.
Jimmie Johnson working into turn 3, eases up just a bit as he exits turn number 4, and now across the stripe. Jimmie Johnson has won for the second time at Bristol and has gone back-to-back here in 2017 with a win at Texas and now another trip to victory lane here at Thunder Valley.
We've been close. We've just been making too many mistakes, and today was another flawless day of execution and a great race car, and we got it done.
And Brad Gillie, who would have known that win there at Bristol Motor Speedway would be the next to the last win in Jimmie Johnson's illustrious career? He would go on that year to win at Dover Speedway, and then after that, everything that had appeared to be easy for Jimmie wasn't so.
It was surprising because he won 3 races in about the first third of the season. And he did all of that in pretty short order. And, it was surprising that literally after that, the faucet just was shut off. No one would have expected that at the time.
He would not win in 2017, and then 3 more full seasons of NASCAR Cup Series competition, winless. Goes away, does a couple of years in IndyCar, and now is back in NASCAR in an interesting configuration, Brad, teaming up for this Legacy Motor Club team with Richard Petty and Noah Gregson and a host of other folks.
Yeah, you and I were talking earlier, his appearance on the Today Show when they announced his car number and all of that. Even Jimmie said, I'd never really thought about team ownership, and we never got the impression. I don't even know that we ever talked with Jimmie Johnson saying, hey, would you be interested in ownership one day? Because it just didn't seem to be his thing. Everything we always asked Jimmie was, when you're done racing, how much more are you going to race?
Right.
And he's obviously not done racing, but I think it's great that he's involved on the ownership side of things and really looking at a lot of the images that came out of that New York visit, because he did bring their 2 drivers with him as well, the 2 full-time drivers, and Eric Jones and Noah Gregson. And that was probably the first time that I sort of got the sensation, the feeling of this is what Jimmie Johnson, the leader of this race team, looks like.
So for this organization, he's already announced that he will run in the Daytona 500 this year, attempt to run. I think that's a fait accompli. I believe he'll qualify and get into the show. I'll be shocked if he doesn't. I'm curious as to what else is on his plate. I know we couldn't have jokingly said, could he get a waiver to run in the NASCAR Open? I have a feeling, and this is just a feeling, that if he went to NASCAR and said, hey, I'd like an exemption, I'd like to be able to run in this, and he may already be qualified to run it.
Yeah, I don't think he needs a waiver to run the Open, because you go back to Austin Cindric, when he ran a partial schedule, he got to run the Open out here at Charlotte,
right,
or Texas or wherever it was that year. So he is signing up to be a Cup Series driver to collect Cup Series points just because he's not full-time. I don't think that disqualifies him from the Open. The exemption would come in, well, you're a past champion, a past All-Star winner, all of that.
And you're Jimmie Johnson.
That would be an exemption, because any current driver who is a past champion, past All-Star winner, as we were talking with Jessica, is already in. But, I was looking at it this way. You look at his top 4 racetracks as far as wins go. Dover, Martinsville, Texas Motor Speedway, and Charlotte Motor Speedway. Well, if he was going to run 5, there's 4 more right there that he could run.
Right. So I can sense that you're probably right. I mean, he owned Dover for a long time, but 3 years there, he didn't win at any of these racetracks. I'll be curious. I think Daytona is a wonderful opportunity for him, simply because things can happen at Daytona.
Yeah, and I know we'll talk about Kyle Larson, but Jimmie's got another opportunity to run a double. If you think about Brickyard Weekend at Indianapolis, that weekend does involve the IndyCar Series on the road course on Saturday, the Cup Series on Sunday. People have talked about the Chicago Street Course race. That would be a big thing. He never won at Chicago in the Cup Series. So there you go.
I like the idea. I like the idea of the double at Indy on the road course. They are fairly short races. Wouldn't be too taxing on you. Not that Jimmie Johnson's not in great shape and couldn't pull that off.
Yeah.
What do you think of the name of the new race team, Legacy Motor Club?
I like it. You know, we were all wondering, and Jim even said this much, we tried every acronym possible. You got Petty, Johnson, Gallagher, all of that. But I think Legacy Motor Club is different, number one. No one calls their, it's whatever racing or whatever motorsports. I mean, that's it almost, and now we get Legacy Motor Club.
I don't know for me, he's going to drive car number 84, which is, just inverting the numbers of his famous 48. Legacy Motor Club sounds rather British to me.
It does.
Am I wrong in that?
No, not at all. No,
I get a real old English feel.
I like that.
It's exciting to have him back. I am sure for Eric Jones and Noah Gragson to have a mentor the level of a Jimmie Johnson. That's just got to be incredible.
I think it has to be. I mean, you look at a guy who won 83 races, 7 championships in his career, and he won races in about every way you could win races, from either clearly dominating them to just fighting hard and making last lap passes to the win, to fuel mileage, to range shortened, to without his crew chief who was on suspension at given times, and all of those things. Jimmie's found a way to win in every capacity. Now he's got a new one to try and win in.
Well, let's face it. When you won as many races as he did, you won them every way possible.
Yeah, that's true.
You covered all of the bases. So Jimmie Johnson back on a limited basis as a driver this year, part owner in Legacy Motor Club. Welcome back, JJ. Nice to have you back, and I'm sure that just adds a little more luster to the upcoming Daytona 500. After the break, Kevin Harvick finally drops his big announcement last week.
We want to help extend the life of your vehicle. Add Z-Max microlubricant to the fuel and oil where it uses the fluids to reach internal parts. As it soaks into metal, Z-Max disperses harmful carbon buildup to help improve performance, reduce emissions, extend engine life, and increase fuel mileage. Buy Z-Max today at zmax.com or your local auto parts store. Help your vehicle run better with Z-Max microlubricant.
Hi, it's PRN's Brad Gillie. Did you know you could take PRN with you anywhere? That's right. By downloading the PRN mobile app, you can listen to our live race broadcast from anywhere. Make sure you don't miss a second of the action from the track. Download today for station listings and on-demand access to your favorite studio shows like Fast Talk, The Pit Reporters, or Garage Pass. Get all the latest racing information at your fingertips with the PRN mobile app. Download today, available in the Apple App Store and on Google Play.
I'm Eric Almirola, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Hey, I'm Paul Shadden-Charlotte with Kathy Martindale in Nashville on the Performance Racing Network.
This is Z-Max Racing Country Classics. Let's head to Charlotte now and join Paul with Chase Elliott.
Tell me this, growing up as Bill Elliott's little boy, did you know Rick Hendrick at all?
The first time I ever spoke a word to him was when I was about 15, and we were just talking racing.
Z-Max Racing Country Classics.
Mike Rowe here with a gentle reminder that civilization is held together by pipes, wires, and cables. It's true. There are over 5 million miles of gas lines, power lines, fiber optic lines, water lines, and sewer lines, all buried beneath your feet. And every 60 seconds, somebody digs into one. Look, if you're thinking about digging around, do yourself a favor and call 811 first just to find out what's down there. Trust me, you don't want to find out the hard way. Call or click 811 before you dig and visit safeexcavator.com for more info.
Once again off turn number 2 for the final time, right up against the wall. Jeff Gordon running right behind him. He'll try to chase him down. Harvick's race to win as he works toward 3 for the final time.
Side-by-side race for third, but Kevin Harvick trying to hold off Jeff Gordon for the win. Coming out of turn number 4, Gordon is down low. Harvick is up high, side-by-side out of 4. Harvick trying to hold on. Gordon races to his inside. They touch at the stripe. Kevin Harvick on the outside with a ghost of Dale Earnhardt looking on. Kevin Harvick pulled off one of the all-time upsets in NASCAR history.
Kevin Harvick driving the legendary number 29 white Goodwrench Chevrolet on that day, captured his first ever Cup Series win. Of course, he had been asked to do the impossible, and that was fill in for the late Dale Earnhardt, who had passed away earlier that season at Daytona. Got his first win ever as a Cup driver, would go on and have a wonderful career, including a Cup Series championship. Announced this week, I think, Brad Gillie, to no one's surprise, that this will be his last year as a driver on the Cup Series. Your thoughts?
You know, he was 25 years old that day when he won that race at Atlanta Motor Speedway back in 2001. You know, and Kevin Harvick, now 47 years old, has had an amazing career. He actually ran his first NASCAR race in the Truck Series as a 19-year-old. In 1995. Didn't start running regularly until a couple of years after that, but 60 wins in his career. He has truly won every major on the schedule. The Coca-Cola 600, the Daytona 500, the Brickyard 400, the Southern 500. He's won the All-Star race. He's won the Bristol Night Race. I mean, anything that you could ever consider a major, Kevin Harvick has done it.
No, he's touched his own. You know, you got to give a nod of the head, I think, to Richard Childress, because back then there wasn't a lot of time. I mean, everybody in the NASCAR community was stunned at the passing of death of Dale Earnhardt, and Richard had to make this decision pretty quick, and he puts this relatively unknown guy in the car, and he comes out and wins, and, you know, the rest of it is very well documented. 60 wins and a championship later.
Yeah, and there's a lot more spectacular about that 2001 season. Number one, he ended up finishing 9th in points after missing the first race of the year. Back then, that was kind of an unheard of thing to do. He also won the Busch Series Championship, what's now the Xfinity Series Championship, that very same year. And if you go back and listen to Kevin Harvick tell the history of that, he was a little reluctant because he already had a different path to the Cup Series that was already put in place that was going to get its start that year. And then this came up, and it was like, oh boy, do I replace Dale Earnhardt, or, you know, do I do this? And ultimately, I think history shows that he did the right thing for his career, for the sport in general. That was a very emotional day at Atlanta Motor Speedway with him winning in just his third race.
There was a long time that Kevin didn't want to talk about that. You would approach him to, you know, get the memory of that day, and he'd go, I'd rather not chat about it. Now he seems to be comfortable. Of course, a lot of time has passed since then, but I get that. You had to jump in for not just one of the greatest drivers, but one of the most beloved drivers of all time and take that seat. I can't now, looking back, imagine the pressure on him.
I can't either. There was a lot involved there. In fact, he was even putting out on social media, I think he retweeted something from someone over the weekend, actually going back to a press conference saying, look, I'm not here to replace Dale Earnhardt. No one can replace Dale Earnhardt. I'm the next guy that's going to be driving this car, effectively is what he said. And he said, I still feel that way today. No one could replace Dale Earnhardt.
And, of course, he had a nice run there with Richard Childress Racing and then moved over to Stewart-Haas Racing, got himself a championship, 60 wins, first ballot Hall of Famer whenever they're able to get around to voting him in.
Yeah. I mean, everything he's done in his career really has been incredible. You know, a couple of Xfinity championships, what he did as a Truck Series team owner and an Xfinity team owner. You know, there was a long time that if you look at Tony Stewart's first wins in the Xfinity Series, I think most all of them were at Daytona, and they were all in Kevin Harvick's cars. I mean, he did a lot as an owner, too, before stepping away from that side.
Of course, looks like he's headed to the Fox broadcast booth next year to work with Clint Boyer and Mike Joy. I think he'll be a great addition because they've sort of auditioned him a few times. But, Brad, you and I later this week will have NASCAR production days, and we'll get ample time to talk with all the Cup drivers. I'm going to go out on the limb and say I don't know that we will talk with a more interesting driver during that 2 days than Kevin Harvick. Is that a fair assessment, or am I overstating that?
I would agree. Kevin has been in this long enough to be able to have an outside view of it as well. He does have the ability to step away, you know, not only see what he sees from his office chair on every Sunday, but also step outside of the sport and look at a lot of the different things that are working, that are not working for the sport from every single aspect, competitively, safety-wise, marketing-wise, all of those things. And I think that's what makes him interesting, and that truly is what makes him a leader in the garage.
I've got to applaud him because last year, of course, we had the new car. He was one of the drivers, he and Denny Hamlin, maybe a couple of others, that stepped up and said, there needs to be some fixes here. This car is not right. 10 years ago, I don't know if a driver does that in NASCAR, but Kevin Harvick had no problems at all of bringing the sanctioning body, I don't want to say to task, but raising awareness publicly, because I think he knew he had to go public if he wanted things to get affected.
Yeah, and look, he knows how to do it, right or wrong. Whether he's had struggles on pit road with the pit crew, whether it's been struggles with the sanctioning body, feels like some safety issues need to be addressed. Kevin Harvick is not afraid to open his mouth when a microphone is in front of it, and I think that's a good thing because I do think he does it in a challenging way. Sometimes it's out of frustration, obviously, but I think he's grown into the person that can do it in a way that challenges the system for the positive.
So what about the fact that he says, okay, I'm going to be done as a driver after this year? He's still viable. He won 2 races last year. There's nothing to make me think that he won't get a win or 2 this year and pad that 60 win total. We've seen so many others. Richard Petty, Darrell Waltrip jumped to the forefront. There have been others that didn't realize when it was time to go.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say about him that I think that he's self-aware enough to say, I can step away from this, and even when I'm still operating at a high level, knowing that he's 47 years old?
Yeah, I think you said it. He's self-aware. And Kevin Harvick, he doesn't need to prove anything in this sport. He's done everything that just about anybody could do in this sport, but also he knows where he is and what he wants as a person. And what he wants as a person is to spend time with his son and with his daughter and with his family, with his wife, and do all of those things as well, still be involved in the sport. And maybe the driving thing distracts from that.
I don't think it hurts him, the fact that he knows that he's got a landing spot, that he can go over and put on the blazer and pick up the microphone and be on Fox and do a great job. And that's a pretty cushy job that will pay well. Not that he needs the money, but I think these guys have a need to stay busy.
Yeah, well, and it's good to see him in the garage. You look at one of his former teammates, Jeff Burton, who is on the NBC side of the broadcast deal. Jeff Burton is a major part of that driver's council still. When it comes to dealing with NASCAR on safety issues and all of that, Kevin Harvick at the racetrack every week is ultimately a good thing for the sport.
All right, Kevin Harvick is one of the 4 people that bought into the late model stock car series, the Cars Tour.
Mm-hmm.
He's partial owner. You know where I'm going with this. Any way we see Kevin Harvick in a late model stock car at some point?
Yeah, I think I think, just my opinion, we see him All-Star Weekend. Rodney Childers has already built a late model, and he and Kevin Harvick had already gone out there and tested it. Now, the late model series, Keelan is getting to the age, as young as he is, believe it or not, where he's going to be able to drive that late model. I think there is a succession there. I would absolutely think that we'll see Kevin Harvick in one. Before COVID, he was doing that. He was going to run a few late model races just to contribute to the grassroots side of things. I think that continues.
I would love that. I'd love to see him up there on the Cars Tour at North Wilkesboro. Not that they're going to have any trouble selling tickets, but it'd be cool.
Imagine he and Dale Jr. going toe-to-toe for the win.
That's a promoter's just dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, even if it wasn't North Wilkesboro, let's say it's Langley up in Virginia or South Boston, you could put both of those guys on your billing. You'd have to add seats for that race.
You definitely would. Now, they're going to have to beat people like Carson Kvapil, who is tearing up that series right now, and all of that. Nothing's a given for them.
I don't know that they go in and win, because these late model guys are pretty doggone good. Like you said, they know what they're doing. They've got their own hot shoes. Be a lot of fun. So, Kevin Harvick, best of luck this season. We'll be talking a lot more about you as you get ready for your finale in the NASCAR Cup Series. Kyle Larson, he's got a long way to go before he retires. He's going to be extra busy next year. We'll talk about that next.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-218-4909. 800-218-4909. 800-218-4909. Again, that's 800-218-4909.
I'm Ty Dillon, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
For anybody that thought these guys weren't going to be professional and work together, we're wrong, because they did exactly that on Sunday.
The better that car does, the better recruiting tool that is for the next driver to come into that car, whether it's somebody coming up from their Xfinity program or it's a free agent.
It really just felt like this year especially, it was a matter of when and not if it was going to happen. It was just like, okay, they just need to catch the right brakes, and they've been doing that.
The O'Reilly Auto Parts Pit Reporters on the Performance Racing Network.
The Grassroots is where the hometown heroes of Friday and Saturday nights are, and where the future stars of NASCAR are made.
First career win for James Friesen in the Task Racing Sportsman Series.
From Eldora to Knoxville, Jennerstown to Lawrence County. Follow PRN's At the Track on Twitter and hear PRN's At the Track each week on broadcast radio stations, the free PRN app, or at goprn.com. PRN's At the Track, relentless passion for grassroots racing.
Fast Talk here on PRN. Doug Rice and Brad Gillie. Alexis Erickson will be back with us next week. Coming up later on this week, we will venture out down to the NASCAR Hall of Fame and do what they call NASCAR Production Days, which is always a lot of fun, Brad.
It is a lot of fun. You know, I'll tell you what, this off season has flown by, but it is a great opportunity to catch up with the drivers and all of the announcements that we've really had since the end of the 2022 season, and especially more recently, some of the things we've already talked about on Fast Talk and some of the other things, just to be able to sit down and chat with them. But what I really love about Production Days, and this is pulling the curtain back, you know, we spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, what is it that we need to get from the drivers? Because realistically, for the broadcast partners, it is our opportunity to get a lot of the things that you hear throughout the year. And Kent Bernhardt, whose voice you hear on all of our programming, is the one that gets to put those things together, and he does such an amazing job of it. I'm more excited about what you're going to hear before the Bristol Dirt Race and what you're going to hear before the Coca-Cola 600 and so on and so forth that we get this week that Kent is going to be putting together for your enjoyment throughout the year. It's going to be fun.
And we are going to be also doing some in-depth interviews with a handful of these drivers, and you'll hear those back on some subsequent shows. Try to get beneath just the veneer of what the news is and actually get them to tell us some pretty good stuff before we embark onto the 2023 season. 2023 is next. 2024, we hope, will follow that. And in that year, Kyle Larson is going to be busy. He announced last week, Brad, that he will be doing his version of the double in conjunction with McLaren in 2024. So we're over a year and a half away.
Yeah. Hey, Larson's going to run the double next year. I think it's really cool. And you know, Rick Hendrick is sort of a part owner of this, or I guess not sort of, a part owner of it, but with Arrow McLaren and HendrickCars.com, to have all of that runway to know you're doing it, I think is really neat. I think we all probably secretly or not so secretly wish we could actually see it happen this year. But if you look at a driver, I mean, Kyle Larson has literally won in everything in which he's driven. And that includes not just NASCAR, not just sprint cars and midgets and late models and all of that. It also includes sports cars, all kinds of different stock car series. He's been to victory lane in all of them. And if there was going to be another challenge for Kyle Larson, I think the Indianapolis 500 is absolutely it. And boy, I cannot wait to see what he's able to show in those cars.
Brad, what do you think about the basic 180 that Rick Hendrick has done Because there was a time, and from what I understand from pretty good sources, that Jimmie Johnson and Jeff Gordon in their time there were put out a little bit. They wanted to go do other things. And it was like, no, you race for me. You race for me on the Cup side, and that's what you do. And now he's got people jumping in late model cars and dirt midgets and now Indy cars.
Yeah. Well, and you know, to me, one of the better stories in that is Jimmie Johnson talks about a time that Rick Hendrick was at his house and they were walking out the garage and there's a dirty dirt bike motorcycle in there with a number 48 plate on the front of it. And Rick just looked over in that and was like, you know, you can't be doing that. I mean, just for fun.
Right.
And that's Jimmie's background. But I guess when you're Kyle Larson and you win 10 races plus an all-star race and a championship in the same year, while winning some of the biggest races on the dirt racing schedule throughout, maybe the car owner changes his tune just a little bit on making that happen.
I do think, too, you have to keep these drivers happy. And for some of them to be happy, they got to be in the cockpit of a race car. And if you deny them that, then all of a sudden you get a moody, kind of petulant driver maybe in the cockpit of your car. I mean, I'm just projecting here.
Sure. No, and I think it's a great opportunity. I mean, you know, the other thing when Kyle Larson came back in 2021 with Hendrick cars on it, it was like, well, you know, it's going to, they can't find him a sponsor, so Rick is footing the bill. And all of a sudden we hear that Hendrick Cars, which is his business, don't get me wrong, that's what got him on the car. They were like, hey, wait a second. We've literally like tripled and quadrupled our traffic on our website when Kyle Larson ran the Daytona 500, and they realized as a business what the sponsorship meant. HendrickCars.com is now in drag racing, going to be an Indy car, obviously in NASCAR, and we see it on a lot of different things now. They've seen the value in motorsport sponsorship, and that's pretty cool too.
Well, after Indy, if they have operators who are standing by, they might want to hire some more operators. By the way, the history of the double started in 1994. I vividly remember this. We were doing the broadcast here, the Coca-Cola 600. John Andretti went to Indy, ran, landed in the infield grass in a helicopter and got out. And on his way to the car, Ralph Shaheen was working for us then. And Ralph ran over and got a couple of comments from John Andretti before the race started.
Wow.
John would finish 10th at Indy. Didn't have much of a day here. He was in a Hagen car that wasn't good and didn't finish well. But that was kind of a Humpy Wheeler idea, too. He was one that helped push John to do this and help set up all the logistics of land here, go here, do this, do that.
Yeah, and we saw Robbie Gordon do it. We saw Tony Stewart do it. Tony Stewart actually had top 10s in both races on the same day. We saw Doug Rice do it as a broadcaster, which was, hey, you know what?
I did not have top 10s.
If there was a better time for a Doug double, this would be it. And honestly, I think Kurt Busch was on his way to dual top 10s. He finished 6th in his first Indy 500, came here to Charlotte, started from the back, and literally got in a wreck. I don't know. It felt like the opening laps of the race, and after that, never had a shot to do
40th.
anything.
He finished last in that race. So, but had a great run at Indy, was the rookie of the year at Indy, finished 6th that year.
Yeah.
But you're right, Tony Stewart with the best ever effort, 6th at Indy, 3rd here at the Coca-Cola 600. And there was a while there, he led a lot of that race.
Yeah, he really did.
And and one of the backstories to that is they're so attentive to these drivers physically that they get him on the plane. And Tony was in pretty good shape, racing shape.
Yeah.
And they're giving him IVs and making sure that his fluid count is up. But he didn't eat.
Right.
And so during the race, he's literally starving, and he talks about it later. He says, I was practically hallucinating in the car because I was so hungry. I realized all the calories I had burnt that day.
Yeah, he flattened out the first time he did it. I mean, it was, just it's an amazing thing to think about. You think about this, 1,100 miles in a day. And I like to road trip, and I've done that.
Yeah.
And that's like starting at 6 a.m. and ending at like midnight. He did 1,100 miles in a day and did it in like a 3-hour stint here and a 4-hour stint there.
Let me ask you this. We've got Kyle Larson, and everybody say, oh, he's a perfect guy. He's the guy that needs to go do this. And I didn't rehearse this question on you. Forgive me.
That's okay.
Who else in the NASCAR Cup Series garage, or is there somebody over in IndyCar that you would like to see try to pull this off.
I would love to see, we're talking about getting an Helio Castroneves in a stock car. I think he would be really good because he's proven what he can do in a stock car, not just in SRX, but go back to IROC. He was pretty good there. Joseph Newgarden on the IndyCar side, I would like to see that as well. A Tennessee driver would be kind of cool to see. On the NASCAR side, I think the other natural fit is also named Kyle. And now that he's back with Chevrolet, it's really opened the door for Kyle Busch to be able to do that.
Right.
Richard Childress has gotten involved in the Indy 500 before, and Richard Childress said recently he would do it again if it worked out.
I would love to see that. I think Kyle Busch would make noise. I've got to think the folks at Indy, and you and I spend a lot of time up there every year. They're very proud of their races. Well, they should be. It's one of the biggest sporting events annually on the planet. But this just adds to it. When Kyle Larson shows up, like it or not, in some ways, because I had an Indy insider tell me Jimmie Johnson's the biggest name on our races.
Right.
He'll be one of the 2 or 3 biggest names that they've got on the racetrack, won't he? Just by sheer, dynamics of popularity?
No question. Fernando Alonso, when he ran the Indianapolis 500, worldwide, he was the biggest thing. And Kyle Larson is still at a young enough age where he's still very adaptable to be able to try different things. And, Jimmie Johnson, I thought that was a great effort, but Jimmie Johnson was a stock car driver through and through.
Right.
And had a lot of habits that,
And it showed up.
Yeah, it did. It showed up. Whereas Kyle Larson is a much more diverse driver as far as all motorsports go. And I think he's got a great opportunity for success.
All right, look forward to that. Just, there is one bad thing about it.
We're not going to be there?
2024.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
2024.
Oh, so we have time to figure out if we can get there.
I don't even buy day-old bananas anymore. So you just All right, coming up. 2022 was a great season for NASCAR. What do they have to do to build on that in the upcoming year? We'll dive into that next.
Grime, friction, wear, destructive words when it comes to an engine. Adding Z-Max microlubricant to your oil and fuel allows it to soak into metal to disperse harmful carbon deposits. You wouldn't wax a car with dirt on it. Don't run your engine without Z-Max. Help improve performance, reduce emissions, extend engine life, and improve fuel mileage with Z-Max microlubricant. Get Z-Max today at zmax.com or your local auto parts store.
The Dirt Race is back at Bristol in 2023, and once again, it's a night race. See the only Cup Dirt Race on the circuit and get a taste of NASCAR's roots.
Trouble off of turn 4. It is Alex Bowman that spins around.
It's the Food City Dirt Race, 7 p.m. on Sunday, April 9th. Save big by grabbing a weekend package today at BristolMotorspeedway.com.
Chase Briscoe is closing once again noticeably.
Remember, this isn't just any old dirt race. It's a dirt race at Bristol, baby.
I'm Ryan Blaney, and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Hi, this is PRN's Brett McMillan. You don't spend your life just sitting around, so what you need is PRN's mobile app. By downloading the mobile app, you can listen to our live race broadcast from anywhere. Make sure you don't miss a second of the action from the track. If you download it today, you get station listings and on-demand access to your favorite studio shows like Fast Talk, Pit Reporters, or Garage Pass. Get all the latest racing information at your fingertips with the PRN mobile app. Download today. Available at the Apple App Store and on Google Play.
Get your NASCAR fix with PRN's Garage Pass.
This car puts on really good shows at 1.5 mile, 2 mile tracks, and I expect nothing less.
Obviously, it's not the spot we want to be in. We'd love to have a win by now and feel like we should have, but it's just been one of those seasons where when we have cars good enough to win, we haven't done all the other things right.
I feel like it's going to be an opportunity to win and feel like, it's an opportunity to win at home as well. So want to take advantage of both of those things.
Hi, I'm Mark Garrow, tracking the latest racing news every weekday.
Welcome back to Fast Talk. Doug Rice, Brad Gillie. Thrilled to be with you. Sports is fickle. You're on top one day. What is that old saying? From the penthouse to the outhouse. You look at the Los Angeles Rams. They won the 2022 Super Bowl. talk of the town, man. It's just a great football team. And it is. If your team wins the Super Bowl, good on you. I don't know that feeling personally. But they went out and won it. This year, they didn't make the playoffs, and there was a lot of talk that their head coach was going to be fired and it was going to be total retooling. That was less than a year away from them hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. And I say that to say this. I felt like last year NASCAR almost won the Super Bowl. Everything went well. 19 different winners. They tried this wacky idea of racing in the Los Angeles Coliseum. That paid off. They brought out a new car, which probably led to 19 different winners. Yeah, they caught some flack for some safety concerns, rightfully so. But for the most part, Brad, it seems like, and there was even the whisper, was this the best year ever for NASCAR, that things went well?
Yeah, I do agree that this is going to be looked at, 2022, as one of those tipping point years for NASCAR, as one that we go back throughout history and remember the first year of the next-gen race car and everything that happened within it. And there was a lot of competitive racing and all of that. There's no question that we're going to look back at this year very fondly.
So I mentioned the L.A. Rams. It's hard to win back-to-back. Georgia Bulldogs just did it in college, but it's very difficult. I feel like it's going to be hard to match last year. It was such a high watermark year. To match last year, to be equal to or greater than, if we make this an equation, what does NASCAR have to do in Brad Gillie's mind to be equal to or greater than?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that they're doing to try and get that, because when you have 19 different winners, 5 first-time winners, you have parity. And NASCAR has looked at the things with the next-gen race car. Look, the fact of the matter is the car was a wild success in what they did. Yes, there were safety issues. You don't want to see a driver ultimately have to retire. You don't want to see another have to take himself out of the playoffs because they had concussions. Those are things that they're working on, but also competitively, they're working aerodynamically amongst all the manufacturers to try and make the cars have even more parity. What we did see in this one is, the little guy could do it. The new team of Trackhouse Racing and 2311 Racing can put cars in the playoffs and in victory lane. I don't think we have to have 19 winners, Doug, in my opinion, but I think we have to have competitive racing week in and week out. We didn't really see too many races where anybody ran away with anything, and I think if you were talking about what NASCAR could do with the changes that they're making and have talked about, get that short track racing back to where it was, while maintaining everything great that we've seen on intermediate tracks with the next-gen car, and you have not just another home run, you have a grand slam.
I do think that attention needs to be paid. You've got to get the Martinsvilles, the Richmonds, those two especially, I felt like suffered. New Hampshire.
And the finale.
Yeah, and Phoenix needs to be a better show than what we saw, and that's a delicate balance, keeping the 1.5 mile and the 2 mile tracks as competitive as they were. I think it's a lot to do. I do like the two things, the two little shiny, bright objects we've talked about a lot. North Wilkesboro All-Star Race, Chicago Street Course Race. I almost feel, though, that NASCAR's put themselves in a spot now. You're giving us these two little treats this year. Last year it was the L.A. Coliseum. Have they put themselves in a spot where every year we've got to have a new treat? My dogs come in every time if I tell them there's a treat. If there's not a treat, they still stay in the yard. So to get us to come in the house, does NASCAR have to keep serving up treats?
It's interesting, and I don't know. In my mind, I thought about, did you paint yourself into a corner? And Steve Phelps is holding that brush and backing into the corner right now when he says the 2024 schedule will look even more different than anything that we've seen in the history of NASCAR schedule changes. What more can they do other than crossing international borders?
You better have a big lineup, because you cannot say that and not support it.
Yeah, you have to deliver on that.
And I don't know if I think it has to be more than just moving the street course around from city to city. Well, we've got to run one of these. We've got to make sure that this looks good. I think it will. It'll be intriguing no matter what it looks like.
I actually like the layout of the racetrack. If you look at it, it looks like just a bunch of 90-degree, turns. But those are preceded by nice long straightaways, and that means braking zone. braking zone. They go over a couple of bridges. I mean, I have really high hopes for this.
Chicago's a beautiful city.
Mm-hmm.
It will I think it will pass the eye test. I wouldn't mind seeing some wiggly lines in there, but can't
it'll
have
be
everything.
A festival type of event.
Yes, it will.
And that's what you need.
So, but I agree. I don't think we'll see 19 winners again. I think that was an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope that the lesser than teams can hang in there against the monoliths of the sport, and that'll be interesting. Coming up, one last thing.
Life can be full of risks. One thing you shouldn't take a risk with ever is your family's health insurance. If you're self-employed or you now need affordable health insurance, you need to make this free call right now and see how the Health Insurance Helpline can help you get it. We specialize in helping the self-employed and people just like you that need affordable health insurance to get it. We have short and long-term health insurance plans, and some even cover dental, vision, and prescription drugs. Don't take a risk with your family's health insurance. It's not worth it. If you're self-employed or now need affordable health insurance, call right now and learn for free how to get it. Listen, affordable health insurance plans for everyone just like you are a free phone call away. So give us a shout right now.
800-472-5145. 800-472-5145. 800-472-5145. That's 800-472-5145.
I'm Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and you're listening to Fast Talk on the Performance Racing Network.
Start your engine! Chastain in turn one drives it in deep to the bottom of the racetrack. He'll slide up in front of William Byron. 3 wide now, down the backstretch, into the bottom of 3.
Side by side down the front stretch. 1 lap to go here in Vegas.
Larson with a nose out in front of Bowman down the Nellis straightaway. They stay door to door, side by side.
Bowman at the bottom. He slides up in front of Larson. Larson with the crossover. He's out of time.
Here goes Ross Chastain. He's going to the bottom of the racetrack.
Now we've got a half dozen cars sliding through the infield grass.
Noah Gregson has spun, but they are still side by side for the lead. Allmendinger's got the advantage on the inside into turn 3.
When the NASCAR Cup Series races at Las Vegas, Atlanta, Circuit of the Americas, Bristol, Dover, Charlotte, Sonoma, Nashville Superspeedway, New Hampshire, and Texas, it's right here on PRN, the Performance Racing Network.
Allmendinger gets jumped out of the way by Kevin Harvick. Harvick goes to P1 with Elliott.
About to put the wraps on this edition of Fast Talk. Thanks a lot to Jessica Fickenscher for dropping in at the top of the show, the executive director of the NASCAR All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro Speedway. And I know we've talked a good bit about North Wilkesboro on this show, but it's so exciting. It's close to our home base here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and the enthusiasm is contagious. So we're going to continue to talk about it. You're going to have to live with that. Motor Racing Network, by the way, will have the broadcast. Brad Gillie and I will be hanging out in the public address booth that weekend. That'll be fun.
Oh, my gosh, that's going to be so much fun.
We're going to get Lenny Baticki to come up there and do some of the late model stuff, and it's going to be great. So we'll talk more about that later on. Right now, it's time for this little featurette.
One last thing.
As we tell you, it can be about any one last thing. Brad Gillie, what are you percolating on?
I have a great story to share. Kevin Harvick announced that he was retiring on Thursday at the end of the 2023 season. And I split my time between our PRN studios here in Charlotte and Texas. And when I'm home in Texas, I go to Texas Motor Speedway and work out of their office quite often. I was coming back from lunch on Thursday, and the ticket office at Texas Motor Speedway is now on the second floor of the Speedway Club building. And this really nice lady, I think she was a postal employee, came in, just happened to get on the elevator with her, and she could not have been more excited, but in a frazzled way. She heard about Kevin Harvick's retirement, and the first thing she thought of was going to the Speedway to make sure she bought tickets for the September 24th Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 400 because she wanted to make sure she got to see Kevin Harvick. I can't tell you how big that made me smile that day just to see the passion from a race fan like that. And I have no doubt that's happened at speedways across the country.
Well, that's awesome. I think for my one last thing, I've been around this game for a long time, and I have been so blessed, and that's kind of where I'm going to go with this, to have watched so many great careers. I saw the start of Jeff Gordon's career, followed him, called a lot of the wins that Jeff Gordon did. The same with Jimmie Johnson and the same with Kevin Harvick. So I have survived a lot of the greats in this sport. I know a lot of people like to look back before that, but in my time in this broadcasting role, I have seen some of the absolute very best come and then go from this sport. So I'm a very fortunate person to have called such greatness on the racetrack. Thanks a lot for tuning in to this edition of Fast Talk. Special thanks to the guys behind the glass, Kent Bernhardt and David Stiles, Brad Gillie. I'm Doug Rice. We'll be back next week. You know what we'll have. A whole bunch more Fast Talk.
Fast Talk was presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Is it the best Coke ever? And Progressive, celebrating 10 years of providing vehicles to veterans through their Keys to Progress program. This is PRN, the Performance Racing Network.